Captain Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Lunar Station Beta, watching the massive ships drift in their holding patterns. The vessels of the 7th Reserve Fleet stretched for kilometers across the void, their dark hulls occasionally catching the sunlight as they rotated slowly in space. To most officers in the Solar Defense Force, these ships were nothing but outdated relics, waiting to be scrapped for resources the modern fleet desperately needed. But Sarah saw something different in those aged warships. She'd spent the last 6 months cataloging them for decommissioning, and with each vessel she boarded, each system she inspected, she found herself more intrigued by their design. These weren't just older versions of modern ships. They were fundamentally different machines, built on principles the SDF had long since abandoned. Captain, the quantum core diagnostic on the Hyperion is complete. Lieutenant Davis reported from behind her. Engineering says the readings are unusual. Sarah turned from the viewport, raising an eyebrow. Unusual how? The core is still active, ma'am. After 15 years in mothballs, it should be completely dormant. But it's maintaining a low-level quantum resonance field. They've never seen anything like it. This was exactly the kind of anomaly Sarah had been finding throughout the fleet. Modern ships used compressed plasma cores, more efficient, more powerful, and easier to maintain than the experimental quantum drives these old vessels carried. But efficiency wasn't everything. "Tell engineering I'll review their findings personally," she said, already reaching for her tablet. "And Lieutenant, keep this between us for now." Davis nodded and left. He was young but sharp, and more importantly, he shared her fascination with these forgotten ships. Sarah pulled up the Hyperion schematics, adding another data point to her growing collection of evidence that something extraordinary was hiding in plain sight. The quantum cores had been abandoned because they were temperamental, prone to generating unusual resonance patterns that interfered with the ship's other systems. The SDF had written them off as a failed experiment, but Sarah's research suggested those resonance patterns weren't a bug. They were a feature the original designers had been trying to perfect. She made her way through the station's corridors to the shuttle bay, nodding to crew members as she passed. Most gave her pitying looks. They thought she'd drawn a dead-end assignment, babysitting obsolete ships until the recyclers came. They didn't know she'd requested this posting. The shuttle ride to the Hyperion was brief. Sarah watched through the viewport as they approached the massive vessel. Unlike modern ships with their sleek lines and gleaming hulls, the Hyperion was all sharp angles and exposed armor plates. Its hull bore the scars of long-ago battles, testament to an era when humanity was first venturing into deep space. Inside, emergency lighting cast everything in a dim blue glow. The air recyclers hummed softly, another system that should have been dormant but wasn't. Sarah made her way to engineering, where a small team of technicians huddled around the quantum core's monitoring station. "Show me," she ordered, and they stepped aside. The holographic display showed the core's resonance pattern, a complex, shifting web of quantum interactions that shouldn't have been possible in a powered-down system. But there it was, pulsing with a rhythm that seemed almost alive. "We tried powering it down completely," one technician explained. "But the field maintains itself somehow. It's like the core remembers how to function." Sarah studied the pattern. She'd seen similar readings on other ships in the fleet, but never this strong. The Hyperion's quantum core wasn't just maintaining itself, it was growing stronger. Back in her office on the station, Sarah compiled her findings. The quantum cores weren't failing back when these ships were active. They were evolving. Each core developed its own unique resonance pattern, adapting to how the ship was used. Modern computers couldn't properly interface with them because they were too rigid, too predictable. The cores needed human operators who could intuit their patterns, work with their quirks instead of trying to force them into standardized parameters. She was deep in her analysis when the station's alert system activated, not an emergency klaxon, but the soft chime that indicated an astronomical anomaly. Sarah checked the alert details and felt her heart skip a beat. Long-range sensors had detected something massive entering the solar system. something that didn't match any known configuration of human spacecraft, and its course would bring it straight past the mothball fleet. Sarah looked out at the forgotten ships floating in the void. For 15 years, they'd been dismissed as failures, relics of an abandoned path of technological development. But as she studied the incoming sensor data, a theory began forming in her mind. Maybe these ships hadn't been mothballed because they were obsolete. Maybe they'd been hidden away because they were too different, too unpredictable for the SDS standardized doctrine. And maybe, just maybe, that unpredictability was exactly what humanity would need for whatever was coming their way. Sarah's request for an emergency meeting with Fleet Command was denied within hours. The response was curt. Anomalous readings in decommissioned ships weren't a priority when an unknown object was approaching the solar system. She was ordered to continue her cataloging work and leave the investigation of the anomaly to active fleet vessels. That night, she sat in the Hyperion's darkened bridge, watching the quantum resonance patterns pulse across her tablet. The ship felt alive around her, its ancient systems humming with an energy that defied conventional physics. Lieutenant Davis stood at the sensor station, running another series of unauthorized scans. "The patterns changed again," he reported, his voice tight with excitement. "It's responding to the long-range sensors we activated. The core isn't just maintaining a field, it's actively scanning space." Sarah moved to his station, studying the readings. The quantum resonance had shifted, forming new configurations that matched the frequency of their sensor suites. Cross-reference this with the historical records. See if there's any mention of the cores displaying this kind of adaptive behavior. As Davis worked, Sarah pulled up the latest data on the approaching anomaly. The SDS modern vessels had been tracking it for days now, but their scans couldn't penetrate whatever field surrounded it. The object was massive, nearly the size of a small moon, and it was slowing as it approached, suggesting artificial control rather than natural movement. "Captain," Davis called out, "I found something. It's buried in the original quantum core research files." A note from one of the lead scientists. They observed the cores attempting to synchronize with unknown energy signatures during deep space trials. The project leads dismissed it as interference, but the cores were doing exactly what they were supposed to do. Sarah finished. They were reaching out, trying to understand what they encountered. She looked up through the bridge viewport at the other mothballed ships floating nearby. How many of the fleet's cores are active? 11 ships showing similar resonance patterns. The Hyperion's is the strongest, but the others are all maintaining fields, and they're all gradually intensifying. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Modern sensors couldn't penetrate the approaching object's defenses, but maybe they didn't need to. Maybe they already had the tools they needed. They'd just forgotten how to use them. She spent the next 12 hours compiling data, building a case she hoped Fleet Command couldn't ignore. The quantum cores weren't just power sources. They were a form of sensing technology far more sophisticated than anything currently in service. Their apparent instability was actually an adaptive feature, allowing them to resonate with and understand any energy pattern they encountered. The station's warning system chimed again. The anomaly had crossed Neptune's orbit, still decelerating. More concerning were the smaller objects now detected separating from it. Dozens of them, each the size of a heavy cruiser, spreading out in a formation that looked disconcertingly tactical. Sarah's comm unit buzzed, a priority message from Fleet Command. Her heart raced as she opened it, hoping they'd finally reviewed her findings. Instead, she found new orders. All personnel were to evacuate the mothball fleet immediately. The ships would be towed to Mars for emergency scrapping, their resources needed to build more modern vessels to face the potential threat. "They're going to destroy our only chance of understanding what's coming," Davis said, reading the order over her shoulder. "Those quantum cores might be our only way to communicate with or defend against whatever that thing is." Sarah stared out at the Hyperion, its scared hull reflecting distant starlight. The quantum resonance patterns had changed again, growing stronger as if the ship sensed the approaching threat. She thought about her career, about regulations and chains of command. Then she thought about those 11 active cores, reaching out into space, trying to tell them something everyone else was too busy to hear. "Lieutenant," she said quietly, "what I'm about to do will probably end my career. I won't order you to join me, but I need to know now if you're willing to help." Davis straightened, a slight smile crossing his face. "The evacuation order gives us 12 hours before they start moving the ships. What do you need me to do?" Sarah pulled up the Hyperion's Master Systems display. "Get engineering up here. We're going to fully activate one of these cores for the first time in 15 years. The regulations say these ships are impossible to properly control. Let's prove them wrong." As Davis hurried off, Sarah began powering up the Hyperion's bridge systems. Warning messages flashed across screens. Protocols screamed about unsafe configurations. But beneath it all, she could feel the quantum core pulsing stronger, ready to show them what it could really do. The approaching object released another wave of smaller vessels. Whatever was coming, humanity's modern fleet was preparing to face it with untested assumptions and standardized responses. But Sarah and her forgotten ships would be ready with something else. Something older, stranger, and possibly exactly what they needed to survive. The Hyperion's quantum core came alive with a sound unlike anything Sarah had ever heard, a deep, resonating hum that seemed to vibrate through reality itself. Emergency lights flashed as power surged through systems that hadn't been active in over a decade, but the old ship took it all in stride, each system coming online more smoothly than their simulations had predicted. "Core stabilization at 70% and climbing," Davis reported from his station. "The resonance pattern is, Captain, you need to see this." Sarah was already moving to his console when the first distress calls reached them. The alien vessels had engaged Earth's defensive fleet near Jupiter, and the battle was not going well. Modern SDF ships, pride of humanity's space force, found their weapons splashing harmlessly against the alien vessel's shields. When the aliens returned fire, those same shields collapsed instantly. But Sarah's attention was fixed on the Hyperion's sensor readings. The quantum core wasn't just active. It was singing to its siblings. Across the mothballed fleet, the other 10 ships with active cores were responding, their resonance patterns shifting to match the Hyperion's frequency. "Get me a channel to Fleet Command," Sarah ordered. "Priority override, authentication, Chen 7 Delta." The ship shuddered. Through the viewport, Sarah watched as a massive alien vessel emerged from faster-than-light travel barely 1,000 kilometers away. It was beautiful in a terrifying way. Its hull seemed to flow like liquid metal, geometric patterns rippling across its surface in hypnotic waves. "Multiple energy signatures detecting," engineering reported. "They're scanning us." "Wait, the quantum core is responding." The Hyperion's hum changed pitch, its resonance pattern automatically shifting to match the alien ship's energy frequencies. Data began flooding their screens, not the meaningless gibberish their modern sensors showed, but clear, detailed readings of the alien vessel's systems. "That's why they abandoned the quantum drive program," Sarah breathed, understanding finally clicking into place. "The cores don't just power the ships. They're a first contact protocol. They're designed to understand any technology they encounter, no matter how advanced." A new signal cut through their communications, a transmission from the alien vessel. Modern encryption protocols tried to decode it and failed, but the quantum core pulsed once, and suddenly clear words filled the bridge. "Obsolete human vessel." The transmission began. "Your primitive scanning attempts have been detected. Power down immediately or be destroyed. Your species' resistance has already failed." Sarah's hands flew across her console, analyzing the sensor data the quantum core was providing. The alien ship's power systems operated on principles that human science had barely theorized, but principles that the quantum cores seemed to innately understand. "They're not invincible," she said, hope rising in her chest. "Their technology, it's all based on quantum manipulation. That's why our modern weapons can't touch them. But these old ships, they speak the same language." Another transmission cut in, this one from Fleet Command. "Captain Chen, You are ordered to abandon that vessel immediately. The aliens have destroyed our outer system defenses. All remaining ships are to fall back to Earth orbit. This is not a request. Sarah looked at her crew. They'd risked everything to help her activate the Hyperion, believing in her theory about the quantum cores. Now Earth's modern fleet lay in ruins, and they were facing an alien vessel that could swat them like a fly. But the Hyperion's core was still humming, still learning, still adapting to everything it observed about the alien ship. And across the void, 10 more forgotten vessels waited, their own quantum cores ready to wake up. "Send a message to Fleet Command," she ordered. Tell them the 7th Reserve Fleet is moving to engage the enemy. And send them our sensor data. They need to understand what we're facing, and what these old ships can do." The alien vessel fired a warning shot, a lance of energy that should have vaporized them instantly. Instead, the quantum core pulsed, the Hyperion's ancient shields flared with impossible strength, and the energy simply disappeared. "Core resonance at maximum," Davis reported, his voice steady despite everything. "The other ships are synchronizing with our pattern. We can do this, Captain." Sarah nodded, her fingers dancing across the tactical display as she plotted their course. Modern technology had failed against this threat, but sometimes the old ways, the forgotten ways, were exactly what humanity needed. "All hands, battle stations," she ordered. "Let's show these aliens why they shouldn't have underestimated Earth's obsolete ships." The Hyperion's engines ignited, pushing the massive vessel forward. Behind them, emergency crews were already evacuating the station, rushing to follow Fleet Command's orders. But Sarah knew they'd just witnessed something incredible. The moment when humanity's forgotten past became its only hope for the future. The alien ship launched another attack, its energy weapons lighting up space. But this time, the Hyperion wasn't alone. 10 more quantum cores surged to life, 11 obsolete vessels moving in perfect formation, their combined resonance patterns creating something entirely new, and perhaps the only thing that could save Earth from what was coming. The alien vessel launched another barrage, but this time Sarah was ready. "Quantum resonance to full dispersion," she ordered. "Let's show them what these old ships can really do." The Hyperion's core pulsed in response, its resonance pattern rippling outward to merge with the fields generated by the other 10 ships. The alien energy weapons struck their combined shield barrier and vanished completely, absorbed into the quantum manifold. "Power readings off the scale," Davis reported, his hands flying across his console. "The cores are sharing the absorbed energy, redistributing it through the fleet. They're not just defending us, they're making us stronger." Sarah watched as the alien ship recoiled, its liquid metal hull rippling with what she imagined was surprise. Their sensors, now enhanced by 11 synchronized quantum cores, showed her everything. The confusion in their power signatures, the sudden surge of communications between their vessels, the rapid recalibration of their weapons. They've never seen anything like this, she realized. Their quantum-based technology has always been superior to whatever they encountered. They don't know how to fight ships that can adapt to and absorb their energy. Through the viewport, she could see more alien vessels emerging from FTL, drawn by the first ship's distress calls. Each one was a masterpiece of advanced technology, their hulls flowing like quicksilver, their weapons capable of cutting through modern shields like paper. But against the quantum resonance field generated by the old fleet, they were firing into a mirror that reflected their own power back at them. "Multiple hostile contacts," the tactical officer announced. "They're trying to surround us." Sarah smiled. "Let them try. Signal the fleet. Execute pattern Sigma 3. The forgotten ships moved with perfect coordination, their decades-old engines pushing them through maneuvers that should have torn them apart. But the quantum cores pulsed in harmony, strengthening their structural fields, sharing power and data faster than any modern computer network could manage. An alien beam weapon sliced through space, aimed at the Hyperion's engine section. The quantum shield absorbed it, transformed it, and channeled it through the fleet's combined resonance field. Sarah felt the deck vibrate beneath her feet as raw power surged through the ship's systems. Core stability at 115%. Engineering reported with a mix of fear and awe. "Captain, we're operating beyond theoretical limits. The absorbed energy. It's changing the cores somehow." Sarah studied the readings. The quantum cores weren't just absorbing energy anymore. They were evolving, learning, becoming something new with each alien attack they processed. Just as they had been trying to do 15 years ago, before fear of their potential led to their decommissioning. "Fleet Command is demanding an update," communications reported. "They're seeing the battle data, but they don't understand how we're surviving." "Tell them the truth," Sarah replied, her eyes fixed on the tactical display as she plotted their next move. "Tell them humanity's greatest weapon against these aliens isn't our newest technology. It's the technology we were too afraid to understand." The alien fleet pressed their attack, dozens of ships now focusing their fire on the obsolete human vessels. But with each blast, each attempt to overwhelm them, the quantum cores grew stronger. The 11 ships moved as one, their combined resonance field becoming something entirely new, something that existed somewhere between normal space and the quantum realm. "They're pulling back," Davis announced suddenly. "Their power signatures are fluctuating. I think we're actually hurting them somehow." Sarah nodded. The aliens' advanced technology was being turned against them. Every attack they launched was absorbed, analyzed, and responded to by the quantum cores. The old ships weren't just surviving. They were learning how to fight back. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "All ships, prepare for synchronized core pulse on my mark. Let's show them what happens when they underestimate Earth's obsolete technology." The Hyperion's core hummed deeper, its resonance building as the other ships aligned their fields. On the tactical display, Sarah could see the alien vessels clustering together, their flowing hulls rippling with energy as they prepared for what they thought would be a decisive strike. But Sarah had seen the patterns in the quantum resonance data. She understood now what the original designers had been working toward, what these cores had been trying to accomplish for all these years. They weren't just power sources or shields or sensors. They were gateways to understanding the quantum nature of reality itself. As the alien fleet moved to attack, Sarah gave the order that would change the course of the battle. "All ships, quantum pulse, full dispersion. Show them what the old guard can do." 11 quantum cores pulsed as one, releasing a wave of energy that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. The aliens' advanced shields, designed to stop normal weapons, meant nothing against an attack that came from everywhere and nowhere at once. The forgotten fleet was about to remind the galaxy why humanity had once been so afraid of what these ships could do. The quantum pulse rippled through space, a wave of possibility made manifest. Alien ships reeled as their quantum-based systems encountered something they couldn't process. 11 human vessels operating as a single quantum entity, turning their own advanced technology against them. "Direct hit on 6 enemy vessels," Davis reported, his voice tight with excitement. "Their shield harmonics are completely destabilized." "Wait, Captain, look at this." On the main display, Sarah watched as the alien ship's liquid metal hulls began to crystallize, their flowing surfaces freezing into rigid patterns. The quantum pulse hadn't just disrupted their shields, it had forced their advanced materials to collapse into a single quantum state. But the aliens weren't finished. Their massive mothership emerged from FTL, its size dwarfing even their largest cruisers. Its hull pulsed with patterns Sarah had never seen before, quantum signatures that made her sensor displays distort. "All ships, maintain quantum synchronization," she ordered. "Whatever that thing is, we face it together." The mothership's response came instantly, a blast of energy that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. It was using their own trick against them, but with power that made their combined quantum pulse look like a spark next to a supernova. The Hyperion shuddered as its quantum core struggled to absorb the impact. Warning signals blared across every console as the ship's systems redlined. Through the tactical display, Sarah saw two of their ships lose quantum synchronization, their cores overwhelmed by the alien attack. "Core stability critical," engineering reported. "We can't take another hit like that." But Sarah wasn't listening to the warnings. She was watching the quantum resonance patterns, seeing something in their fluctuations that everyone else had missed. The mothership's attack hadn't just been powerful. It had been familiar. "They've seen this technology before," she breathed, understanding flooding through her. "The quantum cores. We didn't invent them. We reversed engineered them from something we found, didn't we?" Davis checked historical records, his eyes widening. The original quantum core research. It started after we discovered alien ruins on Mars. But those ruins were dead, powerless. We thought we were just copying their shape, not their function. The mothership launched another attack. But this time Sarah was ready. "All ships, inverse your quantum fields. Don't fight the blast. Match it." 9 quantum cores shifted frequency, their resonance patterns aligning not in opposition to the alien attack, but in harmony with it. The energy washed over them, through them, and instead of destruction, there was connection. Data flooded their systems, not sensor readings, but pure information, downloaded directly through the quantum link. Images, language, history. The story of an ancient quantum-based civilization that had visited Earth's solar system millennia ago, leaving behind echoes of their technology. "They're not attacking," Sarah realized. "This whole time, they were testing us, waiting to see if we could understand what we'd found, what we'd started to rebuild." The mothership's next transmission came not in words, but in pure quantum patterns that their cores translated instantly. The aliens, the quantum ascendancy, had seeded their technology throughout the galaxy, waiting for species to discover and understand it. Humanity had been closer than they knew. The quantum cores weren't failures. They were humanity's first steps toward joining a civilization that existed as much in quantum possibility as in normal space. But the modern fleet's arrival changed everything. Human weapons fire splashed against the mothership's hull as Earth's remaining forces, seeing the 7th Reserve Fleet in apparent trouble, moved to attack. "No," Sarah broadcast on all channels. "Stand down. We're not fighting them. We're talking to them." The next few hours were a blur of diplomacy and explanation. The quantum ascendancy had come not to conquer, but to evaluate. Humanity's abandonment of quantum core technology had delayed first contact, but the actions of 11 obsolete ships and their crews had proven Earth was ready. Standing on the Hyperion's bridge, watching the alien mothership's hull ripple with patterns her quantum sensors could now read as language, Sarah felt a deep sense of vindication. The ships everyone had wanted to scrap, the technology they'd abandoned for being too unpredictable, too different from modern standards, it had been exactly what humanity needed. "Fleet Command is hailing," Davis reported with a small smile. "They're requesting everything we know about quantum core technology. Apparently, they're reopening the Guardian program with full funding." Sarah nodded, watching as the other quantum ships maintained their harmonious connection with the alien vessel. The Forgotten Fleet had done more than save Earth. It had opened the door to humanity's next great leap forward. "Send them the data," she ordered, "but make sure they understand. This isn't about building better weapons or faster ships. The quantum cores are teaching us how to see reality itself in a new way. We didn't fail to understand them 15 years ago. We just weren't ready for what they were trying to show us." The Hyperion's core hummed contentedly, its quantum field now permanently altered by its interaction with the Ascendancy's technology. Sarah knew that everything would change now. Humanity's place in the galaxy, their understanding of physics, the very nature of their civilization. And it had all started because someone had bothered to listen to the song of 11 forgotten ships, drifting in the dark, waiting for the day when humanity would be ready to understand what they had been trying to tell us all along.